Harry and Meghan Markle doing some damage control after the British royal family showed its power last weekend, and some paparazzi pictures Meghan arranged did not lead to flattering headlines. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about the power of the monarchy is leading to Harry and Meghan attempting to just grasp at straws. They're just trying to do anything to try and gain attention, and they're trying desperately to do some damage control after the British royal family showed off in great form during the coronation, and Harry and Meghan just seem to lack any sort of gravitas. It's almost now, I think, imbued in the culture that Harry and Meghan are the car crash mentality. You're watching the disaster. You watch them perhaps to laugh at them, not laugh with them. And I think Harry and Meghan, or especially Meghan, is trying to reverse some of that mentality, but it's not going too well. And you get the sense sometimes that even when she arranges Paparazzi Strolls, it's to try to adjust a message that occurred in another Paparazzi Stroll that she also arranged. So it's this constant cyclical thing that is not working for them. And I think is another sign that things are not necessarily going super well for them behind the scenes. You could say it's in their marriage, in their business arrangements. There's so many different things where I think Harry and Meghan are really struggling here because they're still, I've said this before, married to the idea of still being royal, but not royal. And because of this confusing messaging and branding in so many different ways, is that they are just basically this cluster of messiness. Their brand is toxic. Their brand is confusing. People don't know what they stand for because they seem to stand for everything and nothing. So we're going to go into this a little bit today, and we're going to examine a couple of things that happened over this last week or so. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes a little bit of gossip too. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing about history as well. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be awesome. I would love to have you back. I also have a fashion channel, and I just did my best and worst fashion looks of the week for last week. So if you guys want to check that out, that video is awesome. They are so fun to do, just looking at all the royal ladies. And this is not just focused on the Brits. It's focusing on royal ladies from all over Europe. It's incredible. And then we also have a weekly newsletter, Royal Wire. And I also have an upcoming trip to Germany and Austria. So if you want to hang out and see some amazing castles and talk about royals, like we can go to all these different castles and talk about Harry and Meghan, Catherine and William, Charles and Camilla, basically all the royals of the world, and just have a blast doing it in some of the most magical and scenic locales in Europe. I'd love to have you join me. A link will be in the description box down below. And before we get into Harry and Meghan, huge news, we have a destination for the 2023 Earthshot week. So this will be a whole week surrounding the Earthshot prize and other meetings and everything that Catherine and William are doing. And although I suggested and really thought it would have been Australia and New Zealand, it'll actually be Singapore. So this is a bit of a surprise. I anticipated, because of when they were making the announcement, that'd be somewhere in the Far East because of the time zone. So the announcement was released at midnight in the UK time, but in the morning in Singapore and Australia and New Zealand time. I was really thinking Australia and New Zealand because we've heard time and time again Catherine and William talking about, or the Australian Prime Minister talking about them visiting. So I think that is in the offing, but I'm gonna guess there's an Australia and New Zealand tour for them probably coming next year, not this year, because Singapore already are in South Asia. You could expand it to a much larger tour of Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia and stuff, but I just don't know if that's feasible, especially if they brought the kids. I don't think they'll bring the kids this time, but it would be so lovely if they did. So, but I think Australia and New Zealand is really a kid-friendly tour. So I think if they were gonna bring the kids on a big tour, it would be to there. So I think we'll see a tour there next year. That's what I'm anticipating. But because this is in the fall in November, I strongly believe that Singapore will be kind of their tour de force that year. It is a Commonwealth country. I am thinking very strongly about going. I've already looked at hotels and flights, and it's actually slightly cheaper to go to Singapore than it is to go to Australia, believe it or not. So that makes me a little bit excited, but it is a much longer flight. It's 30 hours of flight time. I was looking at my preferred airline. 30 hours of flying time, which is insane. But I think it would be an amazing week. It really shows how the Earthshot Prize is a project that is continuing to grow and making greater and greater steps. And we also have Catherine. Yes, so she did part of the intro song. She played the piano for part of the intro song for Eurovision, and she looked incredible. The backdrop of the bright blue dress in the red room with the gold accents and her hair, and oh my gosh, it was a tour de force of look and composition in terms of how the picture came together in so many ways. And I think it looked absolutely fabulous. I think she did a fabulous job. It was so fantastic to see her, and such a fun idea too. And I love the camera coming into the window of Windsor Castle. I just thought that was a great effect. And so you just really get the sense that Catherine and William are upping their social media game, which I do think they need to do. They are the future king and queen, and in many ways they are the future. Charles, I think, and Anne can definitely keep the monarchy in its trajectory and continue it going. But when it comes to connecting to the younger generation, really honestly, that's going to fall very much to Catherine and William and their children. So I think they definitely need to focus on the younger crowd, whereas Charles, Camilla, and Anne need to focus perhaps on just keeping the monarchy going, keeping the supporters as it has, as Catherine and William grow the younger crowd as well, because the younger crowd will live longer probably under the reign of King William than they will of King Charles. So this is definitely a very delicate balance, because you don't want William to overshadow the king, yet at the same time, naturally, they do. Catherine and William's events get a lot more coverage than Charles and Camilla's events generally. So this is a very, very interesting time in the royal family as they try to make sure they don't step on each other's toes, but at the same time, Catherine and William do need to have a very large profile. So it'll be interesting to see how this all comes together. But their biggest challenge, which will be probably the biggest challenge for the rest of their lives, because Meghan Markle will drain the royal family as much as humanly possible. She will drag on that thing till kingdom come if she can. Much like you could say to a certain extent, Sarah, the Duchess of York. However, when it comes to Sarah, what I see is respect for the institution. Yes, she's made missteps. Yes, she's made money off the royal family, but at least she has some respect for it. Meghan Markle has zero respect for the royal family. She could care less about them. She just wants the title for herself and her kids so she can market them. Because again, she somehow thinks that having the title of the Duchess of Sussex all of a sudden imbues her with the talent that she never possessed before. A royal title is not a magic wand. It doesn't grant wishes. I'm sorry to say. So if you were a mediocre actress before, you were a mediocre actress after. And it doesn't give you, obviously, all these sorts of creative talents that Meghan Markle supposedly wants. So how do we see that perhaps Meghan is attempting to damage control as she goes through this, especially after signing with William Morris and Endeavor, this huge talent agency, which has the very, very difficult task of making her likable, which is very, very hard. Because most of the time she gets in the way of herself. So if they can rein her in, maybe. But at this point, she's broadly unlikable. And I don't think you can reverse that truck. I don't think that thing can come back unless there's some serious something that happens. I don't think there's any way back from that. So what was our first inclination? Of course, we had the coronation service last Saturday. And then on Sunday, we got, of course, the paparazzi pictures of Meghan hiking with her friends, looking kind of awful. There is fashionable and cute hiking attire, and then there is whatever this is, which is none of those things. The hat is not bad, but then you add the bandana. It's like, well, why do you have a bandana tied around your neck? Is it 1960? I don't think so. Was that to catch sweat? I wouldn't think that would be all that effective. And she's almost overdressed to such an extent that she's almost drawing more attention to herself. She has the jacket and everybody else is just kind of in sweats and a t-shirt, and she's got the jacket, she's got the hat, she's got the sunglasses, she got all her jewelry on. You know, she's got 6 figures worth of jewelry walking in the Montecito Mountains, if that's actually where they were. And you're just like, why would you do that? Especially the pretentious pinky ring. The pinky ring gets to me. You can leave that thing at home. That thing will be perfectly fine at home. I get it, like the love bracelet can't come off without screws. Perhaps you do want to wear your wedding rings, although I did not see her actually wearing her wedding rings. And again, it was just the whole thing was rather weird. She looked so overdone compared to her friends. She looked particularly awful in some pictures. She's like, sticking her stomach out, walking around like this. And I'm like, why are you walking around like that? And you could say, well, she didn't know she was going to be photographed. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that in Montecito, which could take a couple of hours to get to from Los Angeles, that the paparazzi were just sitting there in the foothills waiting for her to come because they thought she might on this particular day go for a hike? A couple hours away. Again, if Harry and Meghan lived in Los Angeles, I would not be surprised. And I would say, yeah, sure, maybe it's a coincidence. But when you live so far outside Los Angeles, like in Montecito, it takes a couple of hours by the highway. It really should probably take more like 30 minutes, 45 minutes maybe. But because of the insane level of traffic in California, quick trips can take hours. Hours. I've driven in California a couple of times. It's awful. It is terrible. I was at a training thing. I had to stay in downtown Los Angeles, which was kind of grody and awful. And I was down there and I was like, okay, one day I wanted to go to Griffith Observatory, which is up in the hills. And so I attempted to get there. And of course our training ended after rush hour. Do you know how long it took me to get there? Well, I don't know either because I gave up after 45 minutes to an hour where I went about 5 miles. And I was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm going back to the Grove. Because the Grove was the shopping center. It was like the easiest thing to get to. They had Sprinkles cupcakes there. And I was like, you could shop. And it's like, you know what, I'm just going to go back there because to attempt to get outside Los Angeles is so cumbersome to get in and out of it that people don't do it. So if you're a paparazzi agency, most of them are based in Los Angeles. Why would they be based in Santa Barbara? Only a handful of people live there. It's more spread out. There's not as many, you could say, locales where people go. So why would you be hanging out in Montecito waiting at the bottom of a trail just in the very, very vain hope that maybe, just maybe, Meghan Markle would decide to go out that direction? And then you also had the thing too was, well, maybe somebody called them and told them she was there. But again, you had the problem of it'll take you several hours to get up there, perhaps 2 hours, depending on the traffic of that day. So I have no doubt she called them to see her. And you could wonder why the reasoning for that is. But Meghan Markle oftentimes is her worst enemy in a lot of respects. And it could be that even maybe her own staff or somebody on her team threw her under the bus and goes, she's going over there. And the other possibility that you can't eliminate is that the paparazzi were waiting outside their neighborhood, which is gated. But the problem with that is we don't see any pictures of her driving. And you have no idea if they change cars a lot or something. How would the paparazzi know, especially if the back is blacked out, you could say, if Meghan Markle was there? It would just be very, very difficult to, I think, determine that. We've seen pictures of the gates of their neighborhood. Again, I just don't see the strong possibility of somebody desperately waiting there, hoping that they may recognize the car that may hold Meghan Markle, because if you're trying to go incognito, you could go out of the neighborhood in a generic Range Rover. There's tons of Range Rovers there. You just lay in the back and probably nobody knows it's you. Again, just saying it's a possibility, but more likely she arranged this because, again, timing, location, weekend, everything like that. And the image she wanted to project, I guess, was I'm the casual, less formal princess, because your sister-in-law looked gorgeous and amazing. And then Meghan Markle comes over here looking awful. I'm like, you could have at least tried to put a better emphasis on your look there. That's all I'm going to say about that. So Meghan Markle attempted to, I think, try to sell her image. That the monarchy seemed over the top, so she was trying to sell a down-home image. But I don't think it worked because A, it's supposed to be over the top. It's a coronation. You coming in trying to look and connect with the people looking like, you could say, a little bit of a hobo is not going to work, because the monarchy is in that moment supposed to be huge, elaborate, majestic, all these sorts of things. And you coming in on the other side looking like you just rolled out of bed, it doesn't work whatsoever. If she at least tried to go to a restaurant and try to maybe look a little bit done up, and I was like, okay, well, at least then you're trying to compete somewhat on the same level. She looks so out of her league that's actually really pathetic. And that's perhaps why we got Paparazzi Stroll number 2. And this one was outside a restaurant in Santa Barbara. Again, Santa Barbara is pretty far away from Los Angeles when it comes to traffic. And so why would the paparazzi be there unless somebody told them to be there? And apparently Cameron Diaz and her husband Benji Madden and Gwyneth Paltrow and her husband Brad were there in addition to a couple other people. We actually do see, I was doubting whether those famous people actually attended, except for the fact that you do see Cameron Diaz there and her husband. So very briefly, and it doesn't look like they're super well connected, but whatever. But anyways, why is this perhaps paparazzi stroll, arranged paparazzi stroll number 2? Well, number 1 was at a sushi place because Meghan Markle, the lap band of her sweats or whatever she was using, a money pouch, whatever she was using underneath, and when she was protruding her stomach out, really made it look strange, led to a lot of rumors that she was pregnant. And I don't think she particularly appreciated those. So what does she do? She makes sure they go to a sushi restaurant because you can't eat sushi when you're pregnant. So she makes sure to go there. And she makes sure to be more glammed up, you could say, even from a distance than what we saw before. And again, because of where this restaurant is located, I just highly doubt that the paparazzi were just randomly there without somebody calling them, telling them to be there. And Harry and Meghan as well. Catherine and William wined and dined leaders, royals, kings, queens, emperors, and empresses. That's who they chatted with last week. So Harry and Meghan, they had to try to create their own court. So they needed to invite Gwyneth Paltrow and Cameron Diaz because they need to bolster their credentials here and look a little bit more like they can hobnob with the rich and famous. And again, you just kind of see, well, everything in Hollywood in many ways is a business arrangement. Even a lot of friendships, they are friends, but they're more acquaintances at the end of the day. They don't really spend that much time together. So this whole idea that Meghan is great friends with all these people, I think is a little reaching into it far too much. Does she want to connect with them? Yes. Does she want perhaps to have a business relationship with them? Yes, she probably does. So it makes sense for her to have these sorts of meetings. I'm not doubting that at all. But again, it comes to a huge question of what was the intention behind it? And why, again, are we getting these pictures? Because even beyond perhaps the pregnancy rumors, there was also the question of why wasn't Harry there on this hike? When Meghan's friends were there, why wasn't Harry there? So she made sure to have him join her at this dinner. But what's interesting is I did look it up. I have a free month trial, but I do have IMDb Pro, which is kind of the entertainment world. So I did look, and Cameron and Gwyneth do not share agents at William Morris Endeavors. They're at CAA and I can't remember, something artist agency. It starts with an S. Signature Artist Agency. That's what Cameron Diaz is with. So they're not with the same talent agencies. So they weren't connected with the same agency. But again, this could have been a business arrangement because Harry and Meghan can also attract people based on just the curiosity factor. I'm sure unless Cameron and Gwyneth, which as far as we know have not spent a lot of time with Harry and Meghan, are just like, you know what? They did invite us. I'm just kind of curious because Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, she wants to hobnob with these people. She always has. She always has. They would never have given her the time of day without the title, of course. But now that she has this title, she's trying to milk it for all it's worth with people. And yeah, people do have the curiosity factor, so I'm not necessarily faulting Gwyneth and Cameron for having this meeting. Now, if it goes any further than this, that'll be the bigger question here. But again, it seems like this effort of damage control. Yes, we are still married and we're happy. Yes, we're still hobnobbing in Hollywood. Yes, Catherine and William may have kings and queens and emperors and empresses, but we got Cameron Diaz and Gwyneth Paltrow, guys. Not anything against those women, but again, you're dealing with completely different levels here. Harry and Meghan are not playing at the same level, yet they're desperately trying to seem like they are. And then we also have this instance where they went to, I believe it's called AHA, some youth social media think tank thing in Santa Barbara where they talked about the terrors of the internet, which is really rather hysterical, and bullying that happens, which is really funny considering Meghan Markle was alleged to be a horrific bully when she was royal, and she's helping other people with the experience of being a bully. So I don't know what she could add to that conversation, but it was, again, another effort for them to seem like they're engaging in the public, and they're like, we just want to hear from you. It's like, well, you hear from everyone all the time. Are you actually doing something? Because you seem to always hear people and never do anything. And it's like, again, you get this sense they're desperately trying to be royals, but they're not royals anymore. And that's a huge problem, I think, with Harry and Meghan's branding, is that they want to be seen as royal, but they're not anymore. And they gotta accept that. And there's aspects of it where you can see the acceptance. Meghan gets to wear whatever she wants. She gets to spend whatever she wants. She doesn't have to be held to the man. Yet at the same time, she wants people to desperately see her as the Duchess. You always have to call her the Duchess of Sussex. Heaven forbid you don't call her that dumb title of a place she probably can't pick out on a map and can't tell you 5 things about. Which, again, is the dissonance between those two ideas. Really makes her clinging to these titles, actually makes her look really pathetic, I think. Because you need to disconnect the royal aspect of your life from what you're doing now. Just be Meghan Markle. Yeah, you can't be Meghan Windsor. Maybe you could be Meghan Sussex, but having everybody refer to you as the Duchess of Sussex does not work in the world you're trying to create right now. The other big branding problem that they have is Harry and Meghan want us desperately to see them as parents and great parents. The problem is, we never see you with your children. I pointed this out on Twitter, and Meghan stands are like, oh, you're demanding to see her kids. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm saying, though, if you want a huge part of your branding, because Meghan tells us all the time, as a mother, you know, yada, 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 being a mom, she mentions these things all the time. Yet we never see this woman with her children in public. We saw them a little bit in Netflix. The only time we've ever actually seen them in public with their kids recently was during the 4th of July, beyond the Netflix documentary, which again was very carefully curated and managed. So we have not seen this woman with her children, and yet she wants desperately for her public relations image to be strongly connected to her as a mother. You can't have it both ways. You either need to be a mom and show us with your kids, or you need to drop this aspect of your branding because it doesn't work. Same thing with Harry. I haven't hardly ever seen him hold his children. And so it's like, how can I connect with you as a dad in your public image if I don't see you as a dad because I don't ever see you with your kids? And again, some public figures, Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, they have 4 children. They're parents. But do they make parenting an essential key aspect of their branding? No. Blake's still a fashion icon and an actress. Ryan is still an actor and, you know, huge aspect with Deadpool and everything. He's known for being very funny. And he's also, I guess, apparently a part of the Clue remake, which I'm super excited about. Though I think they'll probably ruin it anymore. But I love Clue, the movie. It's from like 1985. It's awesome. It's weird and funky, but it's great. So that's what they're actually known for. Them being parents is just a part of that, but it's not the key aspect of that. So if I don't see them with their kids all the time, I'm like, well, you know, they have other things to do. I know they're with their kids other times. And we do see them out about at times with their kids. So it's just, you're not focused on it quite as much because they don't tell us all the time, well, as a parent. Yes, they mention it, but again, different. But Harry and Meghan wants all the time for us to see her as a mother. But I've never seen you parent your kid. I've never seen your kid in public with you and your husband as a family. We've never seen them together as a family in public. It's weird. It is so weird. And so again, I think that damages their branding as well. So as they go through this time, Harry and Meghan, I think, are still desperately trying to do damage control every time they think the monarchy has slighted them, or that the paparazzi have gotten a bad picture of Meghan that she didn't really like and she needs to adjust it and make herself look more powerful again. Those are seemingly the 2 instances, but I can't address the overall problem, which is that they have no direction. Can you imagine, and I'm thinking about this, she's meeting with Cameron Diaz and Gwyneth Paltrow. Both of them have done romantic comedies. Probably Cameron is more known for that. They were both very successful actresses. And I personally like Cameron Diaz. I haven't seen that much with Gwyneth Paltrow in it, but I enjoy Cameron Diaz as an actress. And they're meeting with Harry and Meghan. You can see Meghan going, well, I love rom-coms. Don't you guys love rom-coms? We should have more rom-coms. Can you help me make rom-coms? Because Meghan Markle can't do it. That's the other fundamental problem. They want to be royals and they can't, And they never had the talent to do this to begin with. Because if Meghan Markle truly was this great talent in terms of acting, producing, directing, all these sorts of things, she would have pursued it and been successful on her own. But that required effort. That required energy, that required motivation and a creative drive, which I just don't think Meghan has. And you have Harry here as well, who I think is maybe perhaps a bit more creative than her, but barely graduated high school, is completely out of his depth here. Probably doesn't understand that most of these friendships that Meghan has arranged for him are probably really fake at the end of the day. They are a back scratching type of friendship. You scratch my back, I scratch yours, and that's how they operate. And so there's not really this foundation of authenticity in Hollywood. Hollywood at its core is much like Meghan Markle. It's vain, it's vapid, and really it's all full of narcissists. So what does this tell us about Harry and Meghan? Well, I think it proves that while they think they're on a level playing field with the monarchy, they're not. The monarchy's in the big leagues. They have a premier football stadium filled with the best managers, the best coaches, the best team players ever. And they have merchandise and they have crowds that jam that stadium every day. Whereas Harry and Meghan, it's like they're taking their kids to one of those massive community pitches where there's 12 teams playing at the same time, and it's mostly little children running around a ball desperately trying to kick it, either kicking it at each other, kicking it out of bounds, and sometimes kicking it within their own goal instead of the opposition goal. That's the level Harry and Meghan are at. And while they think maybe they're playing at the premier level, they are not, and they never can be, because the huge difference here is what I think most of Hollywood knows and Harry and Meghan don't, is that the royal family is never going to be equal to Hollywood. It never was, it never is. They have so much more influence than Hollywood could even dream about in a lot of ways. And I think all of Hollywood knows that Harry and Meghan gave up all that power just to be like them. And I think at the same time, they probably to a certain extent look at Harry and Meghan and question their sanity like all of us do. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of Harry and Meghan's efforts at damage control. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.